Welcome to the DevReady Podcast. Today I have Arjun with me. Thanks for joining me, Arjun.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me, Anthony.
Oh, it's
Lovely to be here and looking forward to it.
yeah, same here. It's a pleasure, and thanks for joining me. It's been a few cancellations here and there, but we finally got the time to have this conversation, so that's a good thing. Um,
Indeed.
I'll let you introduce yourself so I don't stuff anything
Of
up.
course.
So take it away.
Of course. Thanks so much. Well, hi, my name is Arjun Agarwal. I wear multiple hats in the startup ecosystem. I'm the portfolio manager at KPMG High Growth Ventures. I'm also a founder of an impact investing fintech and sit on the board of a mental health care charity called the Iceberg Foundation, and the fintech is called Inaam. I've been across the grounds a while, if you'll say it, if I do say so myself, across three continents. So born in India, raised in South Africa, and now settled in Melbourne, Australia, across multiple industries, focusing on impact, management consulting, investment banking, and now finally the startup ecosystem. I spend the majority of my time finding ways to support amazing founders by leveraging my own story, my own failures and successes to then support others in achieving the same goals and achieving whatever their goals might be for their businesses and for their life in general. So yeah, that's a
She's
quick background on myself.
You've got a few different tangents there we can pull on. So you've gotten quite a
Indeed.
bit of traveling and settling down. Then there's sort of like
Yeah,
the corporate start, then moving to the
yeah,
startup, then with the
yeah,
charity, and then trying to give back effectively. So you've gone like
indeed.
full circle.
Yes. That is true. Very true indeed. And I think passion for impact really came from having grown up in South Africa. I was part of the born free generation as soon as the apartheid regime was abolished. And that's really where I spent the majority of my time, supporting underprivileged youths to not only empower themselves, but also those around them. And that's what put me on a very exciting but eclectic career path of, setting up, launching and scaling an edtech startup fresh out of high school, setting up one of South Africa's first blockchain funds with a close friend of mine, and then owing to some personal challenges, getting into management consulting, and then investment banking in India, and coming back to Australia to do a master's in entrepreneurship, which immersed me into the startup ecosystem as part of a bunch of other things I did around here and there.
Okay, so you sort of got like four phases there. Then there's
Yes,
straight out
yes,
of school, like you said, starting
yep,
edtech, and
yep,
what was that about, or how did that idea? So let me rephrase.
oh,
You
yep.
seems like you've had that niggling or that passion to then try and do
Yes.
something yourself very
Yeah.
early.
Yes, that's true. I think so. That EdTech wasn't mine specifically speaking. I ran into the founders in the lift of my building. I overheard them talking about this EdTech, and the founders are based out of Hong Kong. They were ex-Yale grads. The startup was called Ivy Space. It was backed by the ex-VP of Alibaba, I believe, and a couple of angels from Silicon Valley. And they wanted to launch in South Africa. And I was like, hey, I can help you with that. And they were like, you're fresh out of high school. What do you know about running a business? And I was like, well, if I mess it up, you can fix it, right? So why not give me a shot? So I'd come from one of South Africa's largest education groups at the time and empathized and resonated with the problem of being a South African student wanting to get into Ivy League universities, but not having the appropriate mentorship to do that. And Ivy Space solved that exact problem. It was a peer-to-peer mentoring platform. I was like, hey, let me get you in with one of the biggest education groups, and then we can go from there. And yeah, help start those conversations for them, and then slowly supported them in scaling across the country as well. So
Oh
yeah,
well,
and launching and scaling across the country. So
it's
yeah,
taking a big gamble,
very big
betting on
gamble.
yourself, and you're just giving something a go.
Indeed, I think my that's been my life motto. Profanity aside, you can edit this out if you need to, but I'm one of those guys that fuck around and find out has been my life motto. So I just find an opportunity, see if it works, learn from it, and grow from it, and take the next step forward.
Yeah. So at what time or what period was that edtech opportunity
This
in
was
high school?
around 2014, shortly after I finished high school in
Yep.
grade 12. And I think I spent a good year and a bit there. And by the end of that, a friend of mine and I caught the tech bug, and no one was really talking about blockchain in South
Hmm.
Africa at the time. So we were like, okay, cool. Let's set up a fund. So we set up using a credit card and my friend's wit and my risk-taking appetite, a fund to conduct arbitrage and understand how blockchain actually worked, how things got registered on the ledger, buying and selling, doing arbitrage from South Africa, London, India, and Australia. Ended up quadrupling our investor money in 6 months,
Oh
which was
well.
mad. At which point the bank started reaching out to us, offering us insurmountable amounts of money, and we were like, "This is a batshit crazy idea and a god awful idea to give teenage boys that amount of money. Um, and so we took a step back. We're like, okay, let's observe the market. The tulip bulb phenomenon started happening. We're like, okay, let's see a bit more, learn a bit more, and then come back. Probably my worst decision in hindsight, given we were trading assets at about $150 a pop,
Yep.
and now $60,000 a pop. But I make peace with the fact that we acted in integrity and no one lost their money. So
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, that's always something you can hang your hat on at the end of the day.
Indeed,
Yep.
indeed. And yeah, I think I'm the bad brown child in my family. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an engineer, and I'm not an accountant. A theme that I think resonates across ethnic families. And so I was never a technical founder or person, but I always understood things at a conceptual level and would take that concept to then apply, wisdom and intelligence, then build something that mattered. So in my final year of uni, when I chose to do a double major in finance and economics, because it was the easy way out. Unfortunately, I lost my father, and so I had to pull up my socks. Yeah, and stop doing crazy things. Take care of mum, got a job in management consulting for a BPO, and then moved back to India in 2017, where, did a couple short stints at a family office fund, tried to get into investment banking after heaps of rejections across the country, and started off in equity sales and research, where also I ended up building something because, I see a problem, I want to try to solve it. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Bloomberg. It's a data aggregation tool. And our research analysts at the bank wanted access to their data in real time. They just couldn't have it. And so I plugged in Bloomberg with an Excel plugin called FactSet Partners to build a custom kind of Bloomberg terminal, which our analysts could use in real time to then access their research, their information, when they speak to clients. And the sales team still uses that today, which is a great piece for me to know that, hey, I helped build it and it's actually being used in a more robust format today. Then made a jump to the sexy part of investment banking, which is structured and leverage finance. Learned about how the world operates. It did some huge transactions in greenfield and brownfield renewable energy, and tried to keep that strain of impact going, but got to the point I was like, what are you doing with your life? I wasn't doing the one thing I love doing most, which is helping other people. And so I helped the bank set up a CSR fund, ran a couple campaigns, and then thought to build something that mattered, which is how I ended up in Melbourne to do my master's in entrepreneurship at the Wade Institute of Entrepreneurship, UniMelb. Timed it perfectly, came in February 2020, 3 weeks before lockdown.
Just made the cutoff.
And yeah, then eventually ended up here, won the Hack the Crisis Australia hackathon, launched a podcast to support young people on the path to entrepreneurship from around the world, and as part of my final deliverable, set up my life's work, which is inaam, an impact investing fintech, which helps young people that don't know how and where to invest to do so with impact by embedding investment literacy throughout the process, which allows us to curate custom micro portfolios from around the world for just $10 a month, with the end vision and the goal of redirecting every dollar of capital on the planet into impact, so that, we can actually make the world a better place. But as a migrant, you've got to pay the bills. So a couple short stints along the way, private equity, set up a blockchain ESV CLP, raising capital for private groups for a while, a healthcare education group, and most recently the National Disability Insurance Agency, securing capital from Prime Minister and Cabinet to keep the scheme operational. And then looked at this long list of stuff, and I thought people think I'm crazy. So I should build somewhat of a semblance of a career, combine the parts of my life that I love the most, which is helping other people, the startup ecosystem, and combining that problem-solving ability with the might of how the world operates and professional services. So I reached out to the KPMG High Growth Ventures team, and I'm now the portfolio manager based out of Melbourne, building the business out for them here and across the country as well, working with awesome founders. And yeah, wearing all the hats. So there's a bit there, but a lot of experience in terms of how to meld technical with non-technical. We've had heaps of failures in building inaam and finding partners that make sense, finding tech that makes sense, and tech that doesn't make sense, and then going ahead with tech that's just, we shouldn't have done that, and lots of money lost, lots of time lost. But I think that the thing that keeps us all together are the people and the vision, and just bringing that together to build something that matters. So yeah.
There's lots of those stories where there's either time or money lost because of decisions or something you don't understand. So that's a common thread across all startups. But you have a lot of the pieces put together to then make something
Yep.
move forward. So you've been in that investment fund
Yes.
area. You've got an understanding
Yes.
of finance and how to raise money. A lot of
Mm.
startups don't have that, or
Yep.
you can understand how to find a problem and put together a solution. That's one.
Yes.
Normally, it's one or the other, not both. It's a
Correct.
unique blend
Yeah.
there. One thing
Yeah.
I'll probably touch on is, so just you started in 2000. That was roughly 2010. You said when you started that whole journey.
Yeah.
So I'm, what is it? Probably 10 years older than you. I think just by those numbers. I graduated high school in 2004. So almost
Right. Yeah.
6, 7 years
Yeah.
older. But
Yeah.
when I was growing up, and what got me interested into tech is probably going to be a bit different because we didn't have startups as common terms to everyone. Like there was a dot-com boom, but in 1999 I was 12. I didn't really understand anything. Yeah, like I grew up without computers initially. So
Yep.
having that sort of startup, Facebook was just on the rise, and then the big Google, the big Facebook, Twitter, all these things were coming out. Did they sort of influence you in wanting to get involved in that area? And then you thought, all right, let's try and be a startup in that tech space or something like that?
100%. I think my approach to it was very much that as a race, we're going to keep evolving. And technology, I tried to look at it more as a tool that we needed to use and work with to support and evolve ourselves and grow. And I was like, if technology is a tool, you've got to learn how to use it. It's as every age has shown us across history, whether it's the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Industrial Age, or the Tech Age that we're in today. Each level up, it's not something that's overtaking the world. It's a new tool to help us take the next step up. Initially, it was the hammer in the Stone Ages. In the Industrial Age, it was the coal-fired power plant, and today it's technology. It's just a matter of adapting and understanding and acknowledging that you've got to learn how to use this tool to then actually be able to make a difference or build something that matters. So I think those things definitely influenced me. I was like, wow, everyone's playing in the tech space. So this is probably that new tool that we need to learn how to use. And even with the onset of AI, I think myself and a couple close friends of mine, we were very early adopters of ChatGPT just to, understand how it worked. Like, what is it actually doing? This is crazy because these are more tools. And as I think Steve Wozniak said a while ago, we often misuse the term AI because it's still at the point where we're providing an input and telling it how to come to an output. So that's not really intelligence. It's that generative AI piece where we're not guiding any system on how to come up with that output. It's finding in itself that we really need to be conscious about how it works and how we manage it and how we build it. So a lot of tech for me has been understanding conceptual levels. I remember taking IT in high school as well and understanding how a circuit board operated and what the binary bits and the hexadecimal kind of code actually translated to. It was like a language where you're communicating in electrons to a computer to execute something. And whilst I didn't know, I tried to write code and I built programs when I thought I was able to. But it wasn't so much knowing how to do that, but understanding the concept to then be able to leverage expertise where I couldn't be like, hey, this is the concept. This is what we're trying to achieve. And this is how we're going to get there. So understanding those things is, I guess, what brought me towards it. I was like, hey, I actually get this. It's complicated, but if you get the groundwork, you can then use tech and leverage tech to enable better things to happen. So yeah.
It's all about that foundation. If you can understand the core concepts, then you can build upon and grow.
Yes.
It just takes time.
Correct.
And one keyword you used several times in that discussion then was tool. And that's exactly what we tell people. The software is a tool. It's not the business. So you really need to understand, all right, what problem are you solving? Not, I'll build something cool and someone will just come and use it. Because it's never going to happen.
100%. And I think a lot of founders go down that route where they've got this great idea, they've got this great solution, and you try and match a solution to a problem, whereas you've actually got to try and find a problem to solve to then use the tool or use technology as an enabler to solve that problem. So yeah, that's I agree wholeheartedly. Use it as a tool to solve a problem. So.
Yeah, the amount of ideas I've had that, this will be the next big thing. I could probably fill up 10 notebooks. Just having the idea it's the seed. It's the starting point. It doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't mean much after that anyway.
Yeah, 100%. And I think even with those ideas, I think some pitfalls we often encourage founders to avoid is, I'm the Airbnb of this, or I'm the Uber of this. Like, That's like saying I'm the Google of impact search. You're still Google, or you're using it's. I see a lot of people doing this in AI these days, and all like, oh, we're an AI powered solution. But what have you actually built? Are you just leveraging an existing large language model such as Chat or Llama or something else? Because then you didn't build that large language model, therefore you are not the AI. And so I think being very careful about, comparing solutions to what they might be instead of building and innovating something, or being the Uber or being the Airbnb in your industry is more important than assimilating to or trying to compare to or trying to become something that exists, because that's when you're not solving a problem. That's when you're trying to copycat a business model thinking it might work and pasting a solution to a problem rather than finding a problem to build a solution for.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I think the only time you can probably use that statement is if you're talking to investors about a product or your stakeholders and say, we are like X, because you want to frame that in their mind without them having to go down the wrong path.
Exactly.
So we have been building an AI-assisted product, not an AI product, which is how we tend to phrase it. And the very first conversation we had about it, we said we help you design. And the person's mind straight went into Figma. Completely wrong area, not where we wanted. So we have to understand how to frame it better, and that's where those anchoring brands can come in place. But don't strive to be the X of Y.
Correct. And it's so important because I think as humans, we naturally, I've noticed this with a lot of investors as well, you naturally try to find the closest thing to the thing you're talking about. But if you've narrated it the wrong way, you'll end up exactly like how you just described, where you were trying to say something else, but people assimilated your Figma, but that's not where you're playing. So that narration piece and being able to tell that story effectively is so critical, which I feel a lot of times founders may stumble upon, and also is important when having technical conversations with your dev team or with your product team or with outsourced teams that you talk to, because if you're giving them the wrong narrative, they're going to build the wrong thing, which is not going to do the thing you intended to do. And so you're going to think, oh, these guys can't do anything, but they've just done what you've explained to them, your outcome or you're trying to achieve. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest problem with a lot of the tech startups that we've dealt with. So we're a small business in Australia, and we've seen probably hundreds of clients that have had projects that have failed overseas, done things multiple times, even failed here and onshore, not necessarily overseas. So it's not that it's a onshore versus offshore or a translation or a localization problem. It's jumping too early into tech and not understanding how to explain the problem, which you don't necessarily need to understand how to explain it to a developer. Like you shouldn't have to speak developer, as I say.
Yes,
but
correct.
It's understanding that the team that you're working with has a process to help draw all the information out the right way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think knowing what you want to achieve is more important than how you achieve it, because tech is malleable, right? You can build, it's like bricks. You can build a house by putting bricks a certain way. Likewise, you can code something to do certain things a certain way. But if you don't know what you need to achieve very clearly and understand, you can only obtain that clarity if you know what problem you're solving. You're never going to build a product that actually does the thing. You're going to build features, or you're going to build things that look cool that no one will want to use. Now, it's like the guy that built segways saying, I'm going to solve the problem of mobility without consulting anyone on what this thing's going to look like, how it's going to operate, and how you use it. And when it came out, we were like, what's that? I mean,
he built it in complete silence. He didn't talk to stakeholders. Very cagey and cautious about everything, which is
exactly what I mean.
The wrong way to go around doing it.
Correct. It's cool, but I don't see anyone other than safety staff and shopping malls using it, or adventure sports people in off-road situations in a forest or something. So yeah,
and that comes down to that narrative again. You've got a narrative of what you expect to be delivered at the end of the day.
Yeah,
you've got to be able to communicate that to your team, but you also need to be able to communicate that with your stakeholders and get feedback and understand.
Correct.
Is this the story you want to come along with me on? And then that helps you get the buy-in and refinements come out of that.
100%. And also having that room to fail, because everything's not going to go to plan. So long as the main backbone goes to plan, well, that's okay. Everything else, you're going to iterate. There's going to be bugs. There's going to be things that people don't get. You're going to put an icon or a process somewhere. People are like, that doesn't make sense. Why is that? And you won't know that until you give it to people, or until you build the thing, or until you get it out. So I think the fail fast methodology is very important, especially when developing, but the lights have gone off. But it also feeds into, industry, because in fintech, like, this is my personal experience, it's hard to apply this methodology because you sort of only get limited chances, given that you're playing with people's money, especially in the wealth tech or impact investing space. So you've actually got to refine that a bit more before going to the market. And that takes more time. Then there's licensing, and there's other compliance and regulatory things you need to abide by. So whilst this rule applies in general to traditional kind of software or tech-enabled businesses, it may not apply to every industry. It's the same in medtech. You've got to have FDA approval, you've got to have other approvals in place, clinical trials. And so being mindful of where you're at and applying that methodology appropriately to test, to trial, to iterate, to fail is equally as important. Because sometimes you only do get one or two shots and then that's it. But knowing that you have to have that propensity or that scope to fail in your development journey is very important. So,
and that fail fast is being agile very early on and pivoting to feedback and suggestions, because there's no point failing fast if you're not taking any lessons from each failure.
Exactly. Like, if you're not going to change, you're just going to keep doing the wrong thing. It's not going to help anyone.
You just keep banging your head against the wall.
Yeah, not your stakeholders, not your customers, no one. So
it's an interesting space, because a lot of people just think we'll have an idea, we'll build it, get it out there, and it's done. But there's a lot of stuff involved, especially those who have never been in it. And then probably the media helps hype that up a bit. It's like, oh, it's overnight success, something happened. But you have no idea what happened for the past 5, 10, 3, whatever, how many years before that to actually get to that.
Yeah, and we've had our fair share of contracts that we've entered into that didn't go to plan. Other people in our space who've entered similar contracts and had learnings that they imparted to us, be like, actually, this thing says it does this, but it doesn't actually do this. It does it in this way, and you're like, oh damn, that doesn't help anyone. And we just saved a lot of money, but we've also wasted money trying to figure out and find a way to make it work. And sometimes you are better off building things yourself, and sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. I think for Inaam, a lot of our proprietary IP was in and remains in how we educate people, how we empower people through the financial literacy component, which then enables them to make financial decisions. Now, there's two components there, which is the literacy piece is our IP. It's how we teach people, how we train people, and the modules we use to do that in the investment process. The execution piece, we're not reinventing the wheel. We don't need to become a brokerage house. We don't need to become a trustee or a custodian. Those systems exist. We're just enabling the infrastructure to make that happen through our platform. And so we had to take the conscious decision of, if we don't need to have all of those things, why don't we leverage tech that does? And then finding the right tech, which talks to our front end, middle end, and back end, and that's always been a challenge of, how do you find the right pieces of the puzzle? Have you found the right pieces of the puzzle? Do they connect? And then leveraging the pieces that you don't need to build. At some point when we reach scale, sure, we might build things ourselves because they don't work the way we want them to, and that's fine. But to get something out, if you can leverage something that exists, do it, like, quickly. So,
I think that's the best case for a prototype, is try and use anything off the shelf. There's a lot of no-code tools which can do that for you as well these days, but you don't need to become an expert in understanding how to develop and put structures and logic together to be able to do that. There's people that can do that for you, but I think there's a place for each of those sort of tools, for either off the shelf or a no-code thing versus custom. Custom is your business can't operate without it. Like, you have to change your processes to make something work that's off the shelf. And the way you operate, that's your IP, that's your like secret sauce. So you can't then go off the shelf and change what you're doing, because that's what makes you stand out. So it makes sense.
Exactly.
Doing a prototype in Figma or some low-code tool, quick way to demo and test ideas, if it can work. Sometimes you have to build something because it doesn't exist. But then in saying that, you have to be careful. Like, I can only imagine how many startups there are since ChatGPT was announced in that 2023. Was it? No, 2022, December. And then how many startups are fold every month when they release an update that is now a feature of ChatGPT?
Yeah, exactly. And that's happened a lot in multiple industries, even in kind of in fintech. If you look at what Apple did with their credit card, I know it's no longer applicable with the buy now, pay later stuff, but they destroyed buy now, pay later with the flick of a button. And so it's, those instances and examples that hopefully tell founders to start solving problems again and not build them. And there are those that play the game, which is, okay, we're going to build this thing, it's going to get acquired, or it's, whatever, and someone's going to buy the feature. But that's the money game. True founders, your true grit, old school, like we mentioned, the Googles, the Facebooks, the Microsoft, the Apples of the world, were solving problems. And those are now mature businesses that we all look up to. Whereas those that were features have been absorbed, don't exist, didn't solve a problem. No one talks about them, thinks about them anymore. And so founders should more increasingly look to be that instead of the quick win, quick out, kind of quick exit.
Yeah, and in saying that, it's not saying don't think about an exit. You need to have that strategy in mind, because if you do get to a point, you want to be bought out unless you want to run it forever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So and you have to have that in mind, but it's not the sole reason for doing what you're doing.
Correct. Yeah, I think The Founder's Dilemma by Noam Wasserman is one of the best books to get any founder through that. And also The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Like, that just tells you which kind of founder you want to be, what you want to build, and those things. Like, leveraging literature that exists as founders is so important to learn and to keep learning.
Yeah, that journey never ends. There's always something new every day, new challenge.
100%. So yeah, exactly.
You need to embrace that.
I agree.
So it's really it's understanding why you got into what you do, why you got into what you're doing.
Why.
Yeah, your why, and then the problem that you're actually trying to solve.
Yes,
and
correct.
The problem
100%.
is not, I need more money. That's not a problem.
No,
not to make a startup.
Correct. And if you're in it for the money, it will take double, triple, quadruple times as longer as you think it will than if you think it's going to be that overnight success. It very seldom is. It's keeping in, showing up every morning and getting the job done in whichever way you can until it's at a point where you're like, okay, we're good. Now we can take the next step or think of that exit or, do something else. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then there are little pivots along the way, like you said. There's the fail fast, little things will happen, it'll change. But don't
100%.
just completely shift one direction to the other, because then you're just deviating from your why and the what.
Yeah. I remember in a very early pitch of ours where we were trying to provide fractional investments in things like cheese and wine and when we spoke to people about it, they're like, how did you go from impact investing to fractional investments in wine and cheese? I'm like, yeah, look, that it just seemed like it made sense, but now that you're telling me as a customer, it was like it was a complete, you've got to pivot, you've got to iterate, and now we are where we're at. We've got defined portfolios, asset classes, global access to stocks. It makes sense. It's true to our vision. It's true to our mission. It's true to our why. And now it's more like, okay, cool. What do we need to do to get across the line? Is it a raise? Is it the right tech? Is it the right people? And I think people is also very important. That's something that is, that's probably the make or break of everything. Because if you've got the right people, you can fail as many times, but they'll keep showing up. They'll keep doing it because the importance of the why and where you're going. Whereas if you're just building another thing, which is cool, and doesn't really do anything, the people aren't going to stick around either. And that's your biggest kind of asset in any business.
Yeah, so, definitely. Yeah. You need the people to, as they say, buy in to what you're doing.
Yes.
Everyone wants to be able to do something that's contributing somewhere. So if you're solving a real problem, you've got the team that's there to support you and contribute to that goal, then you've got no problem.
Yeah, exactly. I think the more people have these conversations openly about that journey and about, it's not going to happen at the click of your fingers. This is not Avengers Endgame or Infinity War. Like, you've got to, it takes a while. You can tell the nerd in me coming out.
Yeah. Well, even that, it took Thanos 20 movies to get to that point. So
there we go.
It didn't happen overnight. It was about 10 years of movies.
Exactly. So, just being mindful of the journey you're embarking on and doing it for that journey, instead of the result is going to yield so much more than, that end result of, oh, we did it, we're a unicorn. You might, there's a fair chance, but you've got to stick with it until that is achieved. So
yeah, that's definitely good advice there. So just before we probably wrap up now is, if someone is in that journey starting and they're thinking of pivoting, or they're doing some of those, they're failing fast against some lessons, what's some key things do you think you can probably impart from the experience you've had on, all right, you've gotten up, you've probably hit a couple of walls. What next?
I think always stay true to who you're building the thing for, and make sure that every pivot you take makes the thing better for them, and that they're in the loop every step of the way. Because we've maintained this multiple times when we've iterated and pivoted. We've never had a customer problem. We've always had, an investor problem, because of that large leap you need to take to understand the systems change we're trying to undertake. And I'd rather have an investor problem than a customer problem, because if you're building something that people will throw money at but no one wants to buy, that's not a business. That's a vanity project. But if you're building something that people will get behind, that people believe in, that a customer genuinely wants, that's when you've kind of hit the sweet spot, and that you're going to get pushback from investors, because investors, there's always that misalignment that's always taught. Who do companies exist for? Do they exist for their customers or their investors? And you've also got to find the right investors that exist to solve that problem for customers, which allows them to also receive some benefit themselves. So I think every time you hit that roadblock, when you're at that early stage, when you're pivoting, when you're changing, only do so if it makes sense for the customer, even at the early stages. Be so obsessed with what you're doing for your customer and the benefits that they will receive or achieve for the world as a result of what you're giving them, that nothing else matters. It might be harder, it might take you longer, people might think you're crazy and be like, you've been talking about this for so long, why has nothing happened? But every conversation, every pivot, every new step, or every reevaluation of where you're at helps refine and make things better, to the point where when you finally bring it to people, which we're still in the process of doing ourselves, they'll be like, oh yeah, you actually listened to everything we said. You built this thing for us, not for yourself, not for the investors, not to make a quick buck, but to actually solve a problem. So yeah, as long as you're always asking people, hey, does this make sense? Would you use this? And if you wouldn't, why? Ask the hard questions, anyone, and ask people that you don't know. Don't ask your friends, don't ask people that make sure you're asking really hard questions to actually get answers that are actionable and tangible. So
yeah, getting beyond friends and family is always the best thing to do, or people outside your network, because that's true feedback. They're not just saying something or sugarcoating it because they know you.
Yeah, and be obsessed with feedback as well. As much as hard as it is, and as butthurt as it might make you at times, it's something I've applied across my professional career, my personal relationships, my own founder journey as well. Feedback is very important, because it gives you the lens that you will never have, and it's up to you on how you take it. But ensuring you allow space to receive it and then do with it what you deem appropriate is very important, because the minute you stop taking feedback, or you become, no, I'm doing the right thing, I believe in this is the only way to do it. Yes, there are times and places where that applies, but not all the time, and not for everything. So yeah,
you can't be stuck in your own echo chamber forever. You have to.
Correct.
There's times, like I said, you need to then stick true to what you believe, because that's why you're doing it. But most times it's getting feedback and adjusting.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, awesome. Arjun, it's been great having you on an episode, and it's been a good chat. If anyone wants to reach out or contact you, how can they do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's Arjun Agarwal, and or my Instagram, which is Arj Speaks. I try and make content for the masses. I'm a self-proclaimed zillennial, because I'm on the cusp of being a millennial and a Gen Z. So you can find me on either of those places. I'm usually very accessible to help and support if I can. I always will. So yeah.
Awesome. And once again, thank you for coming on an episode of the
Thank you
DevReady
for having
Podcast.
me.
Oh, it's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you very much. Likewise.